The alt-right ruined the internet and free speech in America. Circa 2017, the internet was a blossoming uh, battleground of the world's ideologies. Um, Everyone was on YouTube. You could say, I mean, unless you were just flat out like committing, some kind of violent threat, against someone, like some just stupid, direct, violent threat towards someone. I mean, the opinions were open on YouTube. We had plenty of neo Nazis and stuff on YouTube, and I'm not one of those guys, but I would support their right to be able to say what they want on open media, at least at this stage in history. Um, you know, and push all their all their narratives. It's fine. Um, it was a blood sports on YouTube, and YouTube was awesome. And then blossomed this movement right here, the alt right, and of course, who are the main characters? Mr. Nicholas J. Fuentes, Mr. Dickie Spency, Matthew Heimbach, and of course the illustrious, infamous President of the United States, Donald Trump. And right after this, there is a rally in Virginia in 2017. This is what ended free speech, your ability to critique people in public, major institutions. This all ended when the Unite the Right rally happened in 2017 in Charlottesville, Virginia. The alt-right destroyed free speech. That was when they started censoring everyone. Was right after the Charlottesville event. And since that time, I've been censored numerous times. Had thousands of hours of work flushed down the drain because of these guys. Because of these guys. Nick Fuentes, Richard Spencer, Matthew Heimbach, Donald Trump, and just the general milieu of the alt-right movement. And, instead of actual real intellectuals going at it on the internet, and that being the leading voice, showing the obvious failure of the industrial society, showing the obvious failure of the Christian religion, which I know some of the neo-Nazi guys actually do talk about. Um, we had people like Nick and like Richard and Trump and Matthew Heimbach who ended up destroying any credibility to a resistance movement. And just listen here, ladies and gentlemen, to Richard Spencer, who was at that time the leader of the alt right.
So mad.
This is right after the Virginia issue, the Charlottesville issue. This is a direct. I remember this happening. I was listening to these recordings, and it wasn't just on Young Turks. It was all over the place. This is a legitimate recording of Richard Spencer.
So mad at these people. They don't do this to me. We're gonna ritualistically humiliate them. I am coming back here every weekend if I have to. Like, this is never over. No. I win, they lose.
Yeah.
That's how the world works. They get ruled by people like me. My ancestors enslaved those pieces of. We're gonna win. I rule the world.
Oh, I mean, dude, can you imagine? I totally believe that was legitimate. I think he really feels like that. I think that was a legitimate fucking recording of him.
Those pieces of get ruled by people like me. They look up and see a face like mine looking down at them.
Now, instead of learning the law and calmly going into a room and telling the men it's time to persevere and we're going to fight this in the courts and we're going to act like adults with real weapons of warfare, this was the kind of response we would get. This was the kind of leadership coming from the alt-right, was Richard Spencer. Now, this is what destroyed the internet and free speech. These guys. This is the face, this lunatic, the face of the white resistance in America. And this is why we lost freedom of speech, and that's why I was put on national news for a lynching by the government. If you remember all the newspaper articles that came out about me, you can see the articles that came out about me on the internet. Why? Because they associated a white man resisting what's going on in society with the alt-right. And I have nothing to do with the alt-right. Not only do I have nothing to do with it, me and my friend Veritas Equitas developed, I believe, the most exhaustive debunk of the alt-right platform ever written, in the neo-Nazi movement ever written, right here on my blog, or my platform website, southernprotestant.com/neonaziguide.html. Now, what Richard Spencer and Nick Fuentes and these guys did is, here's Heimbach at the Unite the Right rally here in Charlottesville, Virginia. Yeah, this was the event right here, ladies and gentlemen. The degenerate communists versus the derelict alt-right movement. Okay, but it pales in comparison to what Donald Trump did. Again, the greatest acts of censorship happened under whose administration in this country? The greatest era of censorship in American history happened under whose administration? Donald Trump's. He didn't do anything about it. And all these guys are like, oh, Drake, what could he do, man? He couldn't do anything about what's going on. Sure, he could have. Look at what happened in America during the McCarthy era. You had draconian legislation against to completely supplanting communist groups in the country. Sure, he did. He had plenty of power to do something about it. He did nothing. He wanted this to happen. And if you see my, get rid of those. Here's this LARPing Unite the Right torch, the night of the torch in 2017, right? And of course they got this LARPing fucking hell march music going on. Yeah, and this is the torch. Because these guys, they rather LARP than study, and they were talking about how the hook noses will not replace them. These guys were not scholars; they were not intellectuals. They're just LARPing and wanting to feel like victims. Instead of an intellectual resistance, we got and people who know the law, we got LARPing. You can see my essay that I wrote, more like an article. It's only 5 pages. The Traditionalist Case Against Donald Trump, the American Experiment. And you will notice not only was Trump responsible for the greatest acts of censorship, and by the way, he also passed a bill allowing for these corporations to get a hold of your private information. On April 2nd, I think this is 2000. I think it's 2017. President Trump signed a bill passed last month releasing internet service providers (ISPs) like Verizon and AT&T from having to protect consumer data, in effect jeopardizing people's privacy, opening them up to surveillance. See that? That was done, and he also passed legislation against guns, against bump stocks and large magazines. Right? Yeah, he helped the surveillance state in the country. And on the jab, what was his position on the jab?
Testing that works. Steve, go ahead.
One issue that has come up is once you do have a vaccine.
Why is this screen like this? Come on, dude. Cringe. All right.
Happy with, and we use a certain test around here that goes very quickly. And it's,
this is from the U.S. President Donald Trump visits the American Red Cross.
Amazing job. Everybody at this table has done really an amazing job in coming up with testing.
This is 42-minute mark.
Steve, go ahead.
One issue that has come up is once you do have a vaccine, how do you properly distribute it? how do you get it out quickly to
Well,
millions
when
of
we have
people?
the vaccine, we have the military all lined up, and the military is going to be doing it in a very powerful manner. These are people that don't usually do vaccines. They do soldiers and they do lots of other things that, frankly, are more difficult. But we have our general.
Yeah, and yeah, so the alt right destroyed any hope of any legitimate resistance here. As soon as you are a white male in this country and you have a problem with what's going on in the country, what are they going to say? You're a Nazi. I've had that happen to me multiple times. I'm like, I, I was at one second. I was at this hotel casino about a month and a half ago, and there's these boomers sitting at the bar, and they're going off about politics. And I went after their generation. I was like, you guys, what you've done here to the country is really bad. Like, you guys don't have any grounds to complain about traditionalism or any kind of traditional morality whatsoever. Like, you're the ones that destroyed the family structure in the country. All the big lib movements happened during your generation. And what was the first thing out of the woman's mouth? The guy's wife. What are you, a Nazi? I'm like, lady, I'm a Jew. I'm a messianic Jew. And I was like, I follow I'm a Nazarene Jew. And she was like, shut up immediately, and they left. It's like, dude, uh, this movement destroyed any possibility of a resistance. They destroyed the internet. They destroyed free speech. It reminds me of that video I made weeks back. Your liberators are not your friends. None of the mainstream liberation movements that are touted in the mainstream to be, for the freedom and the liberation of some group of people. None of that is ever true. Everything in America is a psyop, ladies and gentlemen. The mainstream stuff is all psyop. So the alt right destroyed the internet and free speech, and I think that's undeniable that they were the ones that did it. SouthernProtestant.com. Go to my blog, Southern Israelite at WordPress. Hit the donation link in the description. Peace.